whatever you do, don't follow this advice.
When it comes time to planning for a Disney trip, you're gonna get all sorts of advice from the internet, your friends, your family, and so many more people.
In today's video, we are going to give you some of the absolute worst advice that you are going to hear when planning your Disney trip and how you can maneuver these tips to actually work in your favor.
So if that interests you, hit that subscribe button and stay tuned.
Hey guys, it's Kayla and Mark Alan. We like to travel a lot, especially to Disney World. Follow along on our journey as we give you tips and tricks to help you create your own ever after.
All right, so you're planning a Disney trip and your friends have gone, your family's gone, and they're going to try and give you all kinds of tips and tricks to help you have the best vacation possible. And let's be real, their intent is good and their hearts are in the right place, but not all advice is good advice. And so we want to kind of tackle some of the worst advice that is very, very often given and how you can kind of flip those around to kind of benefit you instead of make your trip not as magical.
Probably the most common and biggest worst piece of advice that someone can give you is to actually wait until your kids will remember it.
This honestly makes my heart really sad because there's so many things for little kids to do at Disney World. And a really big pro tip is that kids under 3 are mostly free. The only things that you're really paying for is things like food, which even then is very, very inexpensive. There's characters, there's still plenty of rides that you can go on with your little ones. And it's really one of those things that you're gonna have those memories, and that's what's important. So even if they aren't gonna remember it, you will.
If you do have little ones and you're hesitant to take them, you can actually wait right up until the point that they're 3 years old. And for the most part, they'll still be free, much like what Kayla was just saying. So their park tickets will be free. You won't have to pay for huge meals for them. They're still old enough to really walk around. They're old enough to interact with characters and different activities and playgrounds, different things like that. And so there'll still be magical moments with them. I think that's the most important thing here.
Don't be afraid of not being able to ride the rides. They have this really awesome system, which we'll talk a little bit more about later, called Rider Swap, so that you can still ride the big rides, but obviously you won't have to take your small child on them. All right, the next advice is actually one that we give quite often, and that is you have to rope drop. There is kind of two sides to this. Yes, can you get a lot done in the morning when you get there, right when park opens, or even a little bit before? Absolutely, you can definitely knock out several rides and get a lot of that stuff done before the big crowds come in. However, if you're not a morning person, this is not gonna be a fun time for you. You're honestly gonna be grouchy and tired, especially because Disney takes a lot of energy anyways. And yeah, you might be getting rides out of the way, but by the end of the day, you're completely exhausted and drained.
So there's two ways that you can really turn this piece of advice around. And one is to actually obviously wait and go to the parks until a little bit later. That way you can avoid all the rush and busyness of the parks right at opening. Or the second thing that you can do is actually go ahead and rope drop, and then in the afternoon during the heat of the day, go back to your resort, go to the pool, maybe take a nap, whatever that might look like. That way you can get that rest so you can go back and finish out your day at the park.
The biggest thing is to do what feels best for you. If you're somebody that can get up at 5 a.m. like we do and head on into the parks and get stuff done, by all means do it. But if that's not you, you are on vacation and you are allowed to relax. Even though Disney's a little bit of a crazy vacation, you still can make relaxation a priority. There's plenty of time in the day to get whatever you need done, and you are still gonna make magical memories either way.
The next piece of advice that you'll often hear is that you have to stay on property. And honestly, that's one of the biggest myths when it comes to Disney.
We love to stay on property for tons of different reasons. And of course, there's a lot of perks to staying on property. The biggest being the Disney complimentary transportation from park to park. This is a really, really big one. However, staying on property isn't always going to be feasible or the right choice for everybody. A few instances that this may not be the best option is if you have a large family, the rooms, unless you're going to pay a booty ton of money for one of their villas that has lots of space, you're going to have to get several rooms, which isn't always the most enjoyable. So you may find that you're gonna have a better time if you just rent a rental home or an Airbnb off property. That way you all can stay together in the same place and still have those fun family or group moments together.
Another situation when it comes to your resort that may not apply to specifically a Disney resort is obviously if you're only making Disney part of your trip, maybe a day or maybe 2 days, but you plan on going to maybe Universal, exploring different parts of Orlando, it may not be worth it to pay that extra money for that Disney price tag for your resort just to get those amenities or to say that you stayed on Disney property.
There's plenty of resorts surrounding the Disney area and all over Orlando that come at a much better price, but still have just as great of a relaxing vacation vibe. Whatever you choose to do, of course, it's totally up to your family and what your family needs, but neither option is a bad option. It's just a different type of vacation. The next piece of advice that I wouldn't necessarily recommend is to skip a ride if not everybody wants or can ride the ride. Disney isn't necessarily known for their thrill rides, but there are definitely a few rides that are a little more thrilling that either your younger children aren't going to be old enough to ride yet, or they just may not be a fan. Or someone in your group may just get a little bit motion sickness and may not be able to ride like Mission Space like me. I cannot ride Mission Space. It makes me very sick. So, but that doesn't mean that you have to skip these rides. There are several options with this. Now, right now, Disney Fast Pass isn't available, but it may return in the future. And do keep in mind, you don't all have to have the same Fast Passes. So if a few people in your group have different priorities on what they want to ride, you can split those fast passes up to kind of accommodate both parties. The other option too, if you do have little ones that are not able to ride the rides because they're not tall enough yet, Disney has what's called their rider swap program. This is a really awesome thing that you should totally take advantage of if you have little ones. Basically what it is you only have to wait in line once, kind of. So you will go through and you will notify a cast member that you're wanting to do the rider swap, and they will either give you instructions on where to re-enter, or they will give you a little card or something that will kind of help you know, like, hey, we're doing rider swap. And then you'll go through the line like normal, just the normal standby line, and ride it with the one parent while the other parent is watching your kiddo. Then after you're done riding, you'll leave, and the other parent will come and again follow the instructions that the cast member gives you. And essentially, usually what they'll do is they'll just have you go through like the fast pass line so that you're not having to wait in the standby queue. So it's kind of a fun little hack that you only have to wait in line once, but then you both get to ride the ride, which is just a really, really awesome thing, and I'm super glad that Disney does this.
Now, a catch here, obviously you don't get to ride together, but at least you both get to experience the ride and say you did it.
So if you're someone like me who gets a little nauseous on rides, we actually had this happen on our most recent trip where it was me, Mark Alan, and then my brother was with us as well. We just sent the boys on over to go ride the ride, and I went and got myself a little snacky snack and did some shopping, and I still had a blast all by myself. So don't be afraid to split up. It's not forever. If anything, it'll be at most maybe an hour or so. But sometimes it's kind of fun to walk around Disney by yourself or in a smaller group just to kind of get a little different experience.
And another thing too is that if you are going with a group of people or maybe just some family, for a entire Disney trip, more than likely at some point during your vacation, you're probably going to get sick of each other. That happened for us. It's kind of nice to just break off and people can do what they want to do, the other half can do what they want to do, and it really just kind of calms people down. It's kind of weird how that happens.
Well, and it's nice that that's the great thing about Disney is there's so many different kinds of things to do that there's a little bit of something that's going to cater to everybody. But everybody is going to have different tastes, and that is totally okay. Which actually brings us to our next bad tip, and that is to skip a park because of X, Y, and Z reason. Everybody is going to like different parks for different reasons. Every park is going to cater to a different thing that somebody likes. And the thing is that just because one person didn't enjoy a park as much as another doesn't mean that you're going to have the same experience. For us, we are huge foodies, and so we absolutely have to go to Epcot every single time because we love to eat and we always love going to the food festivals. Now, we understand that that's not something that's gonna cater to everybody, and a lot of times people will say, oh, don't go to Epcot with kids because it's just boring and just drinking and eating and whatever. That's not true. There are some of our most absolute favorite rides at Epcot as well. So again, it just kind of depends on what is important to you and your family and what you enjoy. Just because someone says a park's no fun or no good, it doesn't mean that it's not gonna be fun for you. So again, do your research, figure out what's important to you, and make your decision based on that, not necessarily what someone tells you you should or should not go to.
So now we are going to go over to you guys to see what you guys had to say on our Instagram about pro tips that you've probably heard that are honestly probably really bad. And that brings us to our first one, which is it's only for the kids or it's only about the kids. And honestly, that's
not true.
That's not true at all.
Not true at all. We have no children.
We have a cat.
We have a cat who's like our child, but he can't go to Disney with us.
Even though that would be super fun.
But we love going to Disney. If you guys have watched any of our videos, you know that we have an absolute blast, and there's so many things to do for adults at Disney World. But there's also fun things to do with families. There's fun things to do with kids. There's something literally for every single age group. And I think that's one thing that really just makes Disney so special. The next piece of advice that one of you guys gave us that you thought was not great advice is that you have to use the dining plan to save money. Now, right now the dining plan is not available, unfortunately, because we do really like the dining plan. However, it is very much so that you probably won't actually save money using the dining plan. You have to be extremely strategic to use the dining plan. If you guys aren't sure what that is, it's basically Disney's way of prepaying for your meals, and you get a certain amount of credits depending on what dining plan you purchase. That way you can kind of just get whatever you want, essentially, instead of having to pay for your meals individually. Now, granted, there are ways that you can save a little bit of money if you're choosing the most expensive items and using every single dining credit, but sometimes it can be really, really tough because it's a lot of food. And so don't feel pressured to have to use the dining plan if you are not huge eaters, because you probably aren't actually going to save money. Of course, you're gonna have to do the math yourself, and we always encourage you to plan out your meals and see what you think is gonna be best, which I do have some videos on that, and I'll be sure to link those in the description and in the cards above. But overall, honestly, you're probably not actually gonna save money.
Well, and here's the thing, Disney has priced the dining plan accordingly.
Very strategically.
Yeah, and so realistically, they're a for-profit company. They've purposefully created this, they've purposefully priced it. They're going to make money either way. They know that there's not really a loophole in order for us, the consumer, to make money. They're a business. They want to make money.
And if you are, it's not going to be very much.
Yeah.
Now, I will say when the dining plan will probably save you money is if Disney offers free dining. They typically, in the past, when they had this available, would do it usually in the fall and sometimes kind of during that early part of the year. It's never guaranteed, but it is something that when it comes up, it's really nice to add on to your package if you're already planning on staying on property, because then you don't have to pay for dining, and that actually can save you quite a bit of money. Now again, kind of got to do the math, because Disney, there's this thing called Disney math, that's very complicated, and in order to like save money, you have to spend more money, which kind of like defeats the purpose. So be careful not to get stuck into that trap, but sometimes it can save you money. You just gotta be smart about it.
The next piece of advice that you guys gave us, and this one honestly like breaks my
It's like
heart,
a knife in the gut.
is that the food at Disney is terrible and that you should bring your own. That just like...
Y'all, literally like 90% of the reason we go to Disney World is because of the food. It is a theme park, and of course you are gonna find a lot of burgers and nuggets and hot dogs and things like that that are usually subpar. They're not the greatest. However, Disney does also have a lot of really, really awesome, great options. The thing that's kind of tricky though is that if you don't really know a lot about Disney or you don't do your research, you're not gonna always find all of these kind of hidden gems. So it is important to do some research ahead of time and look at reviews and see what's kind of out there before you go, and make a list of the things that you want to try. That way you know you are getting kind of the best of the best,
Yeah.
or at least being able to try and find something that is a little bit more fun than a hamburger or a hot dog. Now, the nice thing is that you actually can bring your own food into the parks. So if you have little kids who just need random snacks constantly and you don't want to spend a bunch of money on that, totally feel free to bring your own food. If you do have some special dietary needs, don't let that scare you from Disney food. Disney is really great about being accommodating to a lot of different allergies. So if you ever have questions, feel free to ask your wait staff or ask the cast members at whatever dining location you're eating at. They are totally happy to help you find something that is going to be allergy friendly or diet friendly or whatever it is that your needs are. All right, and the very last one that you guys gave us is to not use a travel agent because it's easier to do it yourself. And this is one that I would say you kind of got like both ends. This is very like, I don't want to say it's controversial because it's not controversial, but it's definitely, you got like two sides to it.
Yeah, and there's no in between.
I will say if you are a first time Disney goer, a Disney travel agent is a huge asset.
Yeah.
They will help you so much with walking you through the entire process because planning a Disney trip is a little bit more complicated than planning any other type of trip, just because there's a lot of dates you have to remember to book certain things, and like you have to know where to book certain things, and it can get a little bit crazy. The nice thing about having a travel agent is it's completely free to you. You do not have to pay anything extra. Now, granted, you do want to use someone reputable, which I will try and link a few of our favorites down in the description box. So check out them if you have a trip coming up. But I do love that they are free to use and they're always so happy to answer any questions that you have. We typically don't use a travel agent. For us, it is a little bit easier just because we have done Disney so many times that it's just kind of routine for us. We know how to book everything. However, there have been times where we still do use a travel agent. We did have a trip planned for early 2020 that we sadly did not get to go on, which I was very upset about, but that's a whole other story. But we were actually going with some friends. It was a way longer trip than what we were used to doing. We had some split stay stuff and some complicated reservations that we knew that we could handle ourselves, but we felt a lot better having somebody who really knew what they were doing helping us along the way. So even if you're a Disney like pro, don't be afraid to use a Disney travel agent. First of all, you are supporting a small business, which is really awesome. But also, again, it's free to you and they make your life a lot easier. Those were some really great worst tips.
Bad tips.
Yes.
Those were some really bad tips.
Those were some really great bad tips. So thank you guys so much for submitting those. We hope that this was helpful to you. If you are planning your very first Disney World trip, we would love to help answer any questions that you have. So just drop those down in the comments below. We will try to help you best we can, or we will direct you to one of our fun travel agent friends that we have that they can definitely help you with your planning.
Now keep in mind, at the end of the day, this is your vacation and not someone else's. So do things that you want to do, and anytime someone gives you advice, maybe take it with a grain of salt. You don't always have to listen to everything that you hear, see, or read on the internet or anywhere that you might find advice. So all in all, that's all we have for you guys today. Now go create your ever after.
Perfect. We did it. Okay.
What was that phrase? Boo in the brown shoe?
I said you in the brown shoes.
Oh.
That was pretty much it.
Is it good?
Yeah.
Okay.
I wanted you to use the word magical.
Magic.
Magical. Now we can go watch Loki. Loki. I've been waiting.
Are you low-key excited?
I'm high-key excited.